All right. Welcome to an episode of Stream of Thought After Dark.
Oh, yeah.
episode number 68. And we begin by Victor, you've got a little bit of workout.
Talk about running,
workout
exercise.
related stuff. It's a solid conversation that goes sort of back and forth in what is the quality versus the quantity of a workout, and what, just how much better life is if you actually are able to get out there and do it,
Right. I can't remember what we transitioned right after that.
We end up going into talking a little bit about, I can't remember either.
I don't recall anything in between running and talking about
we talked about stop
facts.
signs.
Stop
signs and traffic.
Stop signs and traffic. Spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
That's really a major theme right there.
Yes, that's right.
Spirit of the law versus letter of the law.
Right.
Are you the kind of person, when you roll up to a stop sign, you look around, and there's no traffic, you'll just
roll on through? Or do you stop and do your due diligence to society and the law?
Every single time.
Which one do I do? Take a guess. On this episode of Stream of Thought, number 68, we hope you enjoy. So I went running the other day for the first time in a while, and it felt pretty good. So I went to Export and I ran on the treadmill. I like doing the treadmill when it's really shitty outside. And
do you normally run outside?
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
not
that's
when it's shitty weather outside, like it has been for the last 3 months.
But what's your temperature threshold of what you'll run outside versus choose to go to the gym?
Well, here's the thing.
Like
when it's warm 32? Outside also... Oh, you mean when it gets cold?
Yeah, well, or I mean, obviously, like rain, you're not going to run outside.
I mean, I'll run outside if it's like...
Snow.
It depends. Like 35 and sunny is way different than 35 and cloudy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because 35 feels like 45 sometimes. So I'll run if it's cold, and if sidewalks are cleared. Like, I could have ran outside the other day.
Yeah.
I could have, but I just didn't. Because I wanted to use the sauna also.
That's why. The sauna.
Yeah, so...
I feel like that is an underused utility in any
dude, it's
gym.
great. So this is exactly what I did on Tuesday. I hopped on the treadmill, 7.5 mile per hour pace, 2-degree incline, and
you did 7.5 minute mile and a incline.
I always add a minimum of 2 degrees.
Wow.
I always add a minimum of 2 degrees.
There has got to be a disparity between, because, for example, like my best mile doing 3.5 miles is maybe 7 minutes and 45 seconds outside, like Glenborough Western Run. So I feel like treadmill.
That's the pace?
Yeah. My pace over the course of 3.5 miles is about 7 minutes.
You do like 7
seconds.
minutes 1 mile and like 9 minutes
varies.
Another mile?
Yeah. No, it really does vary. And I mean, maybe that's why I feel like treadmills don't give you an accurate assessment of how far you've actually run.
I disagree.
I feel like they misjudge.
I think they give you a perfectly legitimate
in a stable condition. So like in an unchanging environment, which
Here's
is
what
so
I've noticed. Here's
unreasonable and impractical for training purposes.
Here's what's weird about the treadmill is that this happened with me today when I was running on the treadmill. When I'm not looking at it, I'm running at the treadmill is going at the same pace the whole time,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And I've noticed, and then I'll be all of a sudden be like, what the hell? And I'll realize I will have started running faster than the pace, and my stomach will hit the bar that's in front, and I'll be like, oh shit, because I'm not looking at the TV, I'm not looking at the analytics, I'm looking like straight ahead at the wall or something like that, you know what I mean? So you are correct in that the treadmill does not give you accurate resistance that it would if you were running a trail or around a track or just running outdoors. But the distance is accurate.
So yeah, I think that you're right. I think that it actually does. It is an accurate recording of how fast you're actually going. But in a perfectly stable environment
Yes.
with no resistance, with no like any sort of obstacles or factors that would impede your maximum speed or ability to like perform, right?
Right.
So it's like ideal conditions.
Yes.
But the thing is, we never actually exert energy
you
in
can
a
set
meaning
it to
like in a
different things. Like you can there's settings where the incline will raise or lower the
Oh,
pace.
totally.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah. It tries to simulate
Yeah.
like various real world conditions, but nothing really replicates an actual run outdoors, right?
Correct. It's way easier.
So obviously,
I guess it depends.
I guess my point is like add in all the factors of running outside, and you're inevitably going to be adding more time to like if, for example, I run to Glenbard West High School around the lake and all the way back home,
But-
like all those factors, including the hills, the wind, like all these different things, the temperature outside are going to decrease my time optimization, right? As compared to running indoors on a treadmill in a stable condition.
Unless you happen to somehow reach that perfect equilibrium, which the temperature outside cools off your body temperature just enough, as opposed to.
But you have to you even have to take into factors like traffic or cracks in the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like all these
downhill,
extra things.
Dude, when I'm going downhill, I'm always making sure I don't break my face on the concrete when I'm going down by Beaster.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fuck.
See, and all that stuff is extra energy that you need to exert elsewhere to
Yes.
other mental focuses. Whereas when you're running, you said you just go into a zone and like you realize suddenly you're running faster, like you blanked out. Like
when I run around
mind
Glenbard
has
West,
just
when I'm
gone.
going around different areas, when I'm going uphill, there isn't a spot where when I'm going uphill, like I don't try to be a superhero. Like I take smaller baby steps. I'm not putting any. When I get to the top of the hill, I'm going to have the same amount of energy as when I began to ascend that hill. You know what I'm saying? I'm not putting any extra energy into going up.
Yeah.
And I take bigger strides, but sometimes it sucks because you don't want to fall on your face, and so your knee takes a beating for a little bit when you're going down. But yeah, you need to think about where you're exerting your energy as opposed to just being in the zone.
For me, it's all about the jams. It's all about what type of music I'm listening to at that moment. Like I will, especially when I'm going up the final hill towards Billy's house, towards Main Street, Glen Ellen, up that main street, right? Up the massive
Linden?
hill. Yeah, I think
Going
it's,
up Linden to Main Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
To Main Street and then taking a right.
Yeah, that's a
on Main
wicked
Street.
hill to longboard down.
It is, oh my goodness. That is the final threshold. It's like the last obstacle in my path before I can actually be like, okay, I can sort of be at an equal pace. But, dude, not like there is something about running outside that just makes me feel like I can push myself so much further. And I think it's the fact that I'm able to control the pace, right? And so if I'm able to just
Well, I have mental checkpoints too.
focus, music is so important. I don't listen to music normally. Like you normally listen to music.
Yes.
Whereas me, it's reserved for running.
Well, when I run around Glenbard West, like I have mental checkpoints. Like from my house to one area is 1.2 miles. From this back around, like so I know kind of what's going on. But what I like about the treadmill is that I'll run and I'll keep running until, especially with music, because when I saw today how long I was running for, I was like, wow, like I didn't let my mind create this create a fake obstacle that I thought I couldn't overcome. Because like if you look down, it's like, oh, I have 5 more minutes left, but these 5 minutes are going to be so hard. And then I looked down, I was like, holy shit, I ran so far, and I ran way longer than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if it was, maybe I was more hydrated, maybe it helped that I did some running on Tuesday, maybe it was the fact that I just had like awesome music going on, which is probably what it was.
I'm guessing that's what it was.
But I ran on Tuesday for the first time in a while, because again, it's just been shitty weather out, and I just haven't been running on a treadmill. I ran, I think it was just under 6 miles in about 45 minutes. and then at a 7.5 mile per hour pace. And then today, same pace, same 2-degree incline, and it was 7.25 miles. And I think it was 52 or 53 minutes because I actually stayed on the treadmill walking for 5 minutes. And I remember I got off when it said 58, and I debated on staying on so I could be on for a whole hour. And I was like, fuck it, I've already been walking for 5 minutes, so I'm done.
Dude, you lost me like 5 minutes ago. There's so much math there. You're giving me all the numbers. I'm gonna have to re-listen to that to calculate everything that you just articulated.
But 7.25 miles in less than 55 minutes, 53 minutes. That's all you need to know. And banger music, and then I did the sauna for 15.
Oh man, such a healthy lifestyle.
I was stretching. There's this thing at my gym, like this giant weird bar thing that helps you stretch.
Yeah.
Like it's like this like half cage so you can grab onto things and put your legs on it to help you stretch. So like it was great because I could stand up and I could like put my leg up on this bar and really get whatever this muscle is right here, you know what I'm saying? Hip flexor or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, because I always have a difficult time putting the ankle on my knee and pulling on my shin because my shin is sweaty, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it helps me able to stretch that out.
You obviously
Dude, I have zero flexibility in my legs, though.
Great pride in your physical capabilities. Like, why?
I could do better.
Like, why? Like, why is it so important to you? I'm not saying it judgmentally.
You know what I always...
I'm not saying
You know what I always pride myself? When I was in elementary school and they'd make us run around the field, you know?
Yeah.
And they'd give us a dot for every lap. Dude, I was just like, no matter what, I never stopped. I never fucking stopped.
Really?
Just always keep going. Yeah, me and I think like Brandon Gepka also would always just keep going. And in middle school, we'd run the mile, the dreaded mile.
Yeah.
If you're sick, the day you come back, you're doing the mile. No one no one escapes.
Everyone had to get their mile.
No one escapes the mile, and I always tried to. And every time we ran the mile in middle school, I always did better than the time before.
Oh my goodness!
It's mostly just like running. With running, it's like I gotta do better. I gotta do better. I gotta do better.
Like what? I mean, your motivation. I'm just trying to understand what it is that drives you to like. Actually,
I'm no Olympian.
Keep it up, because I mean, you're never. Yeah, exactly. You're never going to be the best. So it's like, why?
You want to know what it is, dude?
Like, what gives you that extra boost of?
Dude,
like,
it feels so. It is that runner's high. It does feel so good to have that feeling. That it feels like your body has been cleansed when you run for that long, or when you run for that intensity. If you're not running for 45 minutes, if you're running for 6 minutes, you know what I'm saying? A mile or something like that.
Yeah.
That intensity of just like breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, just like getting all this fresh air in your lungs, your blood is going, you know? It feels great.
There's something that always echoes in my mind that I feel like more people could take advantage of, and that is that your body can handle, I forget the percentage, but your body can handle so much more pain than your mind can. Like your mind feels pain and it's like, ow, stop, that hurts. Whereas your body is saying, I can take a lot more. Like this is, not the threshold, not maximum threshold, right?
I know that.
So it's overcoming that mental barrier, right?
Yeah.
The animalistic side almost.
I know that I have, especially like in high school and track, that I have reached my maximum potential when my heart feels like it's about to explode and there's no reason for it to actually explode because I'm a healthy person. I'm not like 50. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever had that happen when you're running and you feel like your heart is just going fucking crazy? Like you can't keep it up for that much longer. You might have a heart attack.
Once or twice, yeah. I mean, it's not a very common thing. Does that happen? Does that happen a lot to you? I feel like that could be a
no. It doesn't happen a lot.
Issue.
It's happened a few times where I'm just like I keep going because I got to hit my But a lot of the time, too, that's happened when I'm out of shape.
You know what, though? Like, I've gotten to that age now where I'm going to listen to my body. Like, I'm wise enough to, like, look at people around me who have tried to do too much and tried to be that superhero. And
Don't
like,
die trying to be a superhero.
And, like, shit, man, I am not willing to risk long-term damage to my body to prove a point to, like, even myself. It's not worth it. So, like, if I'm running, like, today, for example, I've been doing 3.5 miles in under 28 minutes, which has been about a 7:50 minute a mile
shit's
pace, right? And so, trust me, as somebody who is a smoker and also doesn't run every single day, but runs 3 times a week,
you can do 3 miles in 21 minutes. I think you can do 3 miles in not 3.5, 3 miles in 21 minutes.
The fact that I'm able to do what I'm able to do right now sort of defies explanation, right? 7:45 going up and down hills in the condition that I'm in. And so my motivation comes from sort of without myself, right? It's like once I set my sort of mental state aside in one way or another, right? Does that make any sense?
Yes.
I'm able to push my body that much further. And I feel like that's an efficient way to get the best bang for your buck if you're going to work out, right? You don't need to work out every single day. You can work out 4 days out of a week and still get what you need to get done, right? And be in the best possible physical shape. But you need to maximize your energy spent in that period of time that you're at the gym. So, like,
you
if
also
you're at the gym,
need
you're
to
not,
eat
you're
right
not hanging
and
out
sleep.
Yes. And less caffeine as well.
Oh, you're not hanging out at the gym talking
With people,
you
know, chilling.
I don't mind talking to someone for like 10 seconds, but when it throws off my focus,
when it becomes like a
dude, there was this one guy at my gym, at my old gym before they moved locations. This guy would always just be like chatting it up with everybody, and like all of a sudden I'd find myself in a conversation with him who I can't walk away. One of those people that like they just keep talking, and it's like you can't walk away. For 20 minutes. Like, fuck. Well, I think I'm going to go.
That's a long time.
I think I'm going to go home now. Like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would say hi to him and like keep walking, or I would try to only talk to him when I'm like done with my workout, because it'd be 10 to 20 minutes.
Your problem is you're way too friendly. You're way too accommodating for other people's social whatever. You're very accepting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it causes a lot of inconveniences for the people who are relying on you.
Time management.
Oh, I mean, just being able to, like, politely disengage from people, right? Like, how many times have we had a conversation where you're telling a story about somebody who's just going on and on, ranting, on and on, and you're just like, dude, I wish you would just shut the fuck up so I could go on my way. It's like, as opposed to being proactive and being like, okay, like, I can politely, socially disengage from this person and just end it there, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you are too nice, right? You don't know how to control boundaries. Thank God you're not in the ministry, dude. You would get
I don't know. I think it depends.
Yeah, you would get pretty overwhelmed.
I think it depends on the person and the scenario.
Use very inappropriate language.
I don't know. What? You
would be very overwhelmed.
In a role, minister?
Yes, being a minister, I feel like would just be too much for you.
Absolutely. I don't want to fucking do that. Absolutely not.
You care too much for people.
I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to hear all their problems and try and...
Once, like Dulce, seriously... Yeah. We try to avoid the cleaning woman every time we enter the building. Like, how crazy is that? Because you don't know how to politely disengage for more than, like, 30 seconds. It always turns up to be a 20-minute conversation.
I think for me...
Because you just let her go on and on, as opposed to saying, hey, I gotta do something important.
One time it took a while.
I'm on a schedule.
A couple
People
times,
understand schedules.
But the last couple times, it's been no more than 5 to 7 minutes.
Bullshit.
Oh, really?
Absolute bullshit. I know the time before last, it was about 12 minutes because I was all over the place. And I ended up going back and you were still talking. Literally, I was in and out, and you were still talking to her. This was time before last.
It depends. I can't just say, because If I disengage, I feel like I'm being an asshole, and I can't be an asshole to a sweet little lady. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, okay, it's not about, like, not being an asshole. It's just about being politely but firmly saying what it is your goal is, right?
Okay,
like,
okay.
You have a goal.
I got you.
And, like, people understand that they're not the center of the universe, right? But people love attention and people love being engaged, right? So it's not like I want to hoard your time. They're not thinking like I want to hoard your time, but they're thinking, "Oh, like this is a person who I can really connect with." And they're not thinking about you and your schedule and all that. They're just thinking, "Wow, what a really great experience I'm having right now." And you, like, while you're enjoying it for, you know, what it is, the overriding concern of being like, I got stuff to do, is distracting you from actually being fully present and, like, having, like, a friendly conversation kind of thing. It's like the, you know, you want to, like, look at your watch as you're talking.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of saying, because everyone understands that everyone has stuff to do at certain times and stuff like that. So to be like, hey, you know, like, yeah, this was great. Like, let's. The problem is you've already, like, dug yourself a shit hole because you promised that you would text and call her daughter.
There's not
some reason.
No,
I don't know
that is
why
not,
you would make that promise.
No.
All right, do you care to clarify your?
Yeah. So
Please.
when we met her, this is what happened. She's saying like, oh, like
Her daughter,
you should,
right? It's
you
her
should,
daughter.
you should text my daughter, or call my daughter because like
Who's
you
working
might be
at
interested.
a company that you work for?
No, she's like working, like we're doing something that was like similar to something that I was trying to. She's like trying real hard for me to go like, oh, you should go work here. I'm like, no, I don't want to because I'm like content where I am. Like I don't have
She
time.
wants you to work at an organization that you both work for in a branch around her that she works for.
She had mentioned that, but she now wants me to work with her daughter for doing the same type of work, but for a completely different organization.
Company. Okay.
Yeah. And I had, because every time she'd be like, did you text her? Did you text her? I'm like, no. I'm like, and I just texted her daughter just to do it, just so I can say, yes, I did. And her daughter replied back like, oh, actually, like, we're like not looking for anyone, or like, I'm good, like, but thanks for reaching out, like, or something like that. It's like, fine, I didn't want to do this anyway. And then the last time that we saw her, she was like, oh yeah, mentioning it again. And she was like, oh, you should contact my daughter. I'll have her call you, or I'll call, or something like that. And she never contacted me. So
why didn't you? Okay, like, why didn't you just respond? Like, I called her and she said that they're not looking anymore.
I told her that.
Okay.
I told her that. I don't know what you want me to do. That's why do you think we're fucking driving around the damn building, circling,
trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so mean. Yeah, no, I think that if you had not gotten into the position,
but it's funny that you mentioned this because
like,
because
calling
now
her daughter and texting her daughter, like making those promises to a complete stranger, is something that you should never do in the first place. Like, once you dug yourself in that hole, I'm sorry, like, you have limited options.
You're right, because here's what I'm realizing is that I want to be nice. I want to be nice.
No, I know you.
But
do.
looking at it's funny because I will for sure be like, give someone a hard no if I don't feel like doing something. It just depends on who the individual is.
Yes.
Or what the circumstances are. Because for sure I'm just like, no. I don't fucking, like, no. Don't bring it up. Don't care. I've just completely removed myself from whatever it is that someone wants me to do or is asking of me, or if they want to just have a conversation, I got something to do. But for some reason, with sweet old Dulce, I just don't have that power, and I just get sucked in, and it's a problem. My name is Victor Marquez. And I have problems with engaging people.
I love you so much right now. You have absolutely no idea how much joy has just filled my heart from just everything that transpired right there. That was just so incredible. I mean, the level of self-awareness is just I mean, see, you like
that is
it's so interesting. Like, I will say this, and I will not harp on any of your deficiencies anymore, because so often people will be asked, like, what are your deficiencies? Like, what honestly do you find, like, do you agree with a criticism that someone levels at you? And most times people will be like, fuck no, like, no, I'm not like that at all. But for you to actually literally just stop and be like, genuinely reflecting, like, yeah, like, and you said it all. And the fact that you acknowledge that, I feel like, yeah, that is a more valuable characteristic, I would say, than anything else.
Let me tell you this.
The ability to pause and
let me tell you this.
My goodness, what a beautiful example.
Just the huge amount of relief and burden I lifted off of myself by just taking a moment to admit, yes, this is a problem of mine. Because before you mentioned this, and I'm trying to defend myself, right? Like, no, you don't understand. Like, I can do this, I can do that. Like, I have it under control. Like, you're just not letting me voice what it is the problem. And it's like, no, I need to work on this. And then it's just like, oh man, so much weight lifted off my shoulders. Now admitting to myself, like, no, Victor, you need to do a better job in this scenario, just taking control and just moving forward.
Oh my goodness. It is a beautiful thing to witness, dude. Like, and I mean, you've been present when I've sort of had that wall of, like, just resistance where we were on the phone, right? And my wall of resistance.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in Minnesota
when
we were trying to do the mobile podcast.
Yeah.
And my wall of resistance just, like, evaporated. It's like, the ability to just be like, remove all ego, remove all pride, remove all like defensiveness, right? Because the need to be right, and just be like, let me listen. It's like, wait just a second. There's actually something that I wasn't hearing before that I can hear now. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not going to focus, because this is the thing that I've sort of taken, because I try to have those moments more often these days, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the life that I'm living now, I feel like that's a virtue, and I've been surprised in those opportunities where I just stop and actually listen, and I'm like, oh my God, I was wrong, and I'm in a conversation with the person, as opposed to realizing afterwards, like, oh, maybe I wasn't right or anything like that. To be in mid-conversation, be like,
while it's happening,
shit.
Yeah.
like how do I do this? And to literally just drop your defenses and be like, you know what, you're right. You are totally right. Listen, I was not listening.
I am surrendering right now.
I am surrendering. And the surrender is a beautiful thing, because there's no more tension. There's no more disagreement. There's no more conflict. It's like, it's all gone. And you're like, you know what? You've got a point. And the value of validating another person's concern is beyond anything that you can, like, say or do for a person, right? Just to say that they matter, and that their opinion matters, and that you heard them, and that they are something, like, they were able to change something, right? There's that pleasure factor of suddenly they're just like, oh my goodness, like, this is a wonderful thing. And so they drop their defenses, there's no more tension, and everything is reconciled.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's like magic.
It is magic. Especially like you said, when it's in the moment, it's just like the flip of a switch. Everything just changes. All of a sudden, you see things through a new lens.
It really caught me off balance. I was like, wait just a second. Like, because we were going back and forth. It was weird. We were going back and forth. And I'm going to replay this, and I'm going to try and listen. But, like, you're pushing back. I'm pushing. Like, we're pushing it. And then something happens where a sentence happens, and you're just suddenly like, what? You know what? Like, actually. And then you go on to this thing, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I'm totally at a loss for words. I'm like, what just happened? Wait.
A miracle.
It was a special moment. It really was.
A miracle just happened. Oh, but yep.
Well, so, man. I mean, while we're I guess on the sort of topic of, like, admitting, you know, wrongs, not necessarily wrongs, but, like, admitting defects or whatever. When we were riding over, and this was actually interesting, I'm hoping this leads somewhere. If it doesn't, whatever. Okay. But the idea of, because we're recording this at what? It's almost 11 o'clock.
10:47 Central Time.
10:47 Central
February
time.
15th.
And Victor just got off an 8-hour shift
No,
right?
I was only there for 6 hours.
Oh,
6.5 hours.
Six
yeah.
and a half hour ship.
Yeah.
So not
Wasn't
super
that bad.
But we drive to get here on relatively abandoned roads, right?
Yes.
Like it's still suburban areas. There's still schools and park district buildings and routes and
Pretty empty though.
But it's relatively empty. So you come to a lot of stop signs, right? that are totally abandoned, right? No cars.
I know where this is going.
I to C. And so
Let me stop you right now, real quick. When that van pulled in front of us, right away, I thought to myself, but I didn't admit it out loud, I was wrong. I was wrong. And again,
you got kind of defensive in that moment.
Real defensive. I thought to myself, the first thing I thought was, wow, that car really came out of nowhere.
No, it didn't. No, because I had to tell you. No, it didn't. But so when you come to a stop sign in the middle of even if it's let's go even more generous and say it's a rural area, right, where you can see in every direction.
I roll that motherfucker.
What is the standard for when you will actually come to a stop? When you see another car in the vicinity? Is that your criteria?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
When it's one of those situations where you can, when it is like, when you're coming up on the stop sign and you're, say, 100 feet before the stop sign, it's like totally rural. You know what I'm saying? There's clearly not a car coming along. I'll roll that pretty hard. You know what I'm saying? I'll slow down a little bit. But even when there is, here in town and everything, okay, I stop. It's rare that I come to a complete stop unless there's another car.
Now, it's interesting because you strike me as kind of a law and order type of person.
Are you kidding me?
A person to respect rules and laws.
Right.
Really?
Depends.
Depends?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, how do you feel? I don't know. I'm not going to get into the really, tax evasion.
No,
how do you feel about tax
stuff.
evasion?
There's a funny line
cool
in the
with...
movie Waiting where Ryan Reynolds says something like, well, I wasn't exactly consulted when the laws were made.
Yeah.
But
well, that ultimately is the challenge of living in a democratic society, right? A liberal democracy is that we all have to abide by a certain standard of rules, and unfortunately, it may be inconvenient to us.
But think of this:
times,
take away if you're in a scenario
for the greater good.
If you're in a scenario where there's no cars around, right? Visualize no stop signs. Visualize no stoplights. Does it make sense for you to come to a complete stop and turn or go straight if you can see the road that is perpendicular to you?
Yeah, but rules and laws are made for a reason, right?
Yes.
So shouldn't they be obeyed?
Yes.
Really? You're going to cave that easy?
They should, but they're not.
No! I want you to... Gosh, really? You're killing me, Smalls.
I mean, I obey... Well, I was about to say I obey stoplights when they turn red.
Yeah, right.
But I do, with the exception of the right turn. I slow down and I'll make a right.
Well, okay, so, I mean, look at it this way, right? I like to, when looking at, let's say, philosophical questions like this, right? Like, should you obey the laws if they're stupid, right? Right?
I know what you're saying, yeah. No, I don't,
Well, that's like a as simple as it is, should you obey stupid laws like having to stop fully at a rural country stop sign where you can see for miles in every direction, and yet there's a cop that's literally lurking in the cornfields just waiting to jump out and get you, right?
Right.
And it's you are in no way, there is a 0% chance you're going to do harm to anyone else, right?
Right.
And so the rule itself isn't actually changing anything, in that particular situation, but it's an opportunity for sort of the state to come in and say, we are penalizing you for not actually adhering to the letter of the law, right? And so spirit of the law versus letter of the law. do you believe in the spirit of the law? So if you see two cars coming in the opposite direction on a rural road that are all three of you are going to hit the thing at the same time, you all are going to slow down and stop, come to a complete stop, and let each other go, right? Like, that's the spirit of the law, right? That's why the stop sign exists, is for when the cars actually come together.
Correct.
The letter of the law says that even if you're there totally alone and there's no one else around, you still have to stop and follow that exact procedure, even if there is no like additional thing. Whereas the spirit of the law would say it's okay for you to roll through the stop because you are not in a circumstance that the law was designed to prevent, which was three cars coming to an intersection and trying to decide who's going to go first. That's what the spirit of the law was meant to try and facilitate. And instead, the letter of the law says you have to come to a stop every single time. Whereas the spirit of the law was like, well, no, it was meant to control traffic.
Right.
As a safety procedure. When
the stoplights
cars converge.
Like when you have stoplights at night, they're just blinking yellow instead of being real stoplights. Exactly,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Where it's that like mutual agreement where there's not, there's not a hard and fast rule as to.
And maybe that's something that will exist in the next 50 to 100 years that today is going to be so ass backwards. Because right now you think about it like we have this metal sign, this stationary sign that doesn't move, doesn't do anything. Who's to say that in 50 or 100 years there will be technology that like will facilitate or uphold the law when it senses other vehicles around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean that
yield signs. That's my jam.
Yeah,
yield signs.
That's what it's all about. Well, I mean, dude, for the longest time, and that was totally a random diatribe. It wasn't really meant to do anything, Like it was more of a philosophical.
Let's talk about why this got brought up. When we were on the way over to the studio, there was a red light. I rolled through that red light in order to make a right turn, and there was an oncoming car making a left turn that should have stopped at their yellow light, but turned left when it had turned red.
No, they went through the yellow light. It was not a red light until they were all but through. Their tail end maybe was in the intersection.
I'm always right. Everyone else is always wrong.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we covered this like 10 minutes ago. You're totally right. All right. You know what? We'll drop it. No, it is interesting to think about, though, that, because the reason why I bring that up is...
And maybe that's why the letter of the law exists, because they don't want people developing the habit of...
Well, okay, so, like, the reason why I bring this up is that it extends beyond just, like, traffic, right? Or, like, speeding, right? Everyone speeds, But,
like in a wolf pack. I remember this from high school and driver's ed, like, wolf pack, where it's like, let's say the speed limit on the highway is 55 miles an hour. Everyone else is driving 75. Drive 75, because if you're driving 55 and everyone else is driving 75, you are now a danger to everyone else that's on the road.
So yeah, that's an instance of where like it is safer to break the letter of the law in order to abide by the spirit of the law, which is everyone be safe on the road. Like that is the spirit of the law. And the letter of the law says you can't go any faster than 65 miles an hour, even if everyone else is going 75. The letter of the law says that, right? But by abiding by the letter of the law, you are putting more people in danger than abiding by the spirit of the law, which says go with the flow of traffic.
Yes.
Right? Don't be stupid and just make it flow.
Correct.
Like, that is the ultimate goal of infrastructure and traffic, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it extends beyond that too. When you go into, it extends beyond. Now I just have traffic in my head, but like jaywalking or something like that, right? Or downloading music from YouTube as an MP3 file, right? Do you do that?
Of course.
See,
absolutely.
And so right, like piracy is bad. Like, advertising alert. Piracy is bad.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, I mean, it's not to say that because everyone does it, it's fine. But I think that there is that tension that you have to reconcile, because you'll have people who, let me tell you, coming back from Florida, hanging out with my grandmother, she is a letter of the law type of individual, right? Like you follow all the rules, you get along with everyone else, you treat everyone else courteously, like, but you live within the set rules, which means you don't speed, you don't do it, like you don't jaywalk, you don't do any of these other, you don't litter, you don't, you pick up after yourself, like every little aspect of the letter of the law,
like obviously, like
you fit within that confine versus. Yeah.
Here's what I have a problem with that. And not with the traffic, with the littering, I mean, those are safety. And obviously, of course, the littering.
What about
anyone who litters is an asshole, right? Well, here's what I'm getting at.
Yes, okay.
It's that if you accept the law, this is a very vague, blanketed statement, and you accept your position to live under the tutelage of another person or entity, you are just conforming and allowing yourself to just be this mechanical pawn in society without any desire to think or live outside of the established parameters.
That was a deeply philosophical,
you know what I'm saying,
concept that you just laid out.
Steve Jobs said something very similar.
Like I'm actually very impressed with the parameters in which you define.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Argument. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you should never. Because again, with the laws like traffic and stealing, like I get that, but the whole you must live inside of these walls. Oh, he actually said you must live inside. I think these walls, and don't rock the boat too much or something like that. Like, no, like, fucking rock the boat. Like, scream at the top of your lungs. Be different. Make your own path. Like, don't just be another moving part in this greater whole that's just this machine that uses you how it wishes.
Right, great. Like in our great liberal democracy, there are producers and there are consumers.
Yes.
Like, what do you want to be, right? Do you want to be a producer or do you want to be a consumer? If you're going to be a consumer, like most Americans are, you're going to be on the losing end of things.
Yes.
And so if you want to be a producer, like, not only do you have to understand the rules of the game, but you also have to be willing to, like, innovate and, like, press the boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. And go outside the boundaries. And those gray areas, you have to be willing to, like, test those gray areas, right? As opposed to those people who sort of confine themselves to the letter of the law, sort of.
Yeah.
They may live a morally just life, and I have nothing against that, but it will be a very boring life.
They're not living any life at all.
No, I don't want to say that. I really don't think that people who adhere to rules their whole life
I'm not saying
are missing out on anything necessarily. Like, I think that those sort of people can have just as fulfilling of a life as those people who, like, test the waters of the gray areas of our moral
It depends on it depends on what makes you happy. If you like the same old thing every day,
some people find great contentment and great joy. And let me tell you, living a life like following the rules and like it's not even a problem for you to be able to adhere to all the rules all the time. Like, God bless you.
Yeah.
If that is who you are as a person,
that is very true.
You're a rare type of individual who needs to be, like, lifted up in society. Yeah. Because let me tell you, like, those are the type of people who are most respected, who are most accountable, who are most reliable, who have the most fulfilling
it's really funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about something similar to that the last couple days. So, for example, like when there's change on the ground, like say at the store, like, a quarter, dime, penny, whatever, if it's just on the floor, mm-hmm. right? Like, I'll pick it up and I throw it in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Or if there is someone or like a box of food or crackers or something, like, falls over and it gets ripped open or something like that, like, me and this other person, like, we'll munch on it a little bit before throwing it away, the portion that hasn't been spilled on the floor. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But there are some there's there's a couple of righteous individuals at the workplace that they see a penny on the ground, they pick it up and they put it on the register, or food that's been spilled, or for whatever reason it just can't be sold, or whatever the case is. Like, nope, I'm throwing it away, or I'm putting it in its place. And I think to myself, God bless you for having the discipline to just do what most would perceive to be the right thing. God bless you for being disciplined and having boundaries. Because the other day, I'm not too proud of it. This is my justification for it. I'm going to lay it all out for you. So at work, what we have are stop sales, which means, there might be something on the floor that we can't sell temporarily. Either they think that they misprinted the expiration dates, or they accidentally, or whatever the case is, or maybe some company, a similar product was defective, there's metal pieces or something weird like that, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So they'll pull a product. So there was chocolate that got pulled, and you put a sticker on it, and in the break room it's been sitting there for like 6 weeks, and since then it's been able to go back on the shelf. But the
wait, it was there 6 weeks and
no, listen. So what you do is you pull the product, one unit,
yeah,
and you put it in the break room and you put a sticker on it, a stop sale sticker, so that employees can see this product is not on the floor right now, in case people ask about it.
Oh,
then you take the actual boxes and you
yeah.
put them in the back room, and you put caution tape over it, and either A, they get thrown away, or B, they can get put back on the shelf.
Why one or the other? Why would they get thrown away or get sold to people?
Because they might conclude, corporate or whatever, like, oh, these are bad, actually. Like, they're just pulling temporarily to do research.
So,
like, we can't sell these, or, false alarm, like, we did our research, you can actually put it back on the shelf. So,
like, potential recall products.
Yes,
like
exactly.
They're testing it to see if a particular batch
Exactly.
Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, it happens more times than
oh, my
you
God,
think.
really?
Or they just pull it because another grocery store did it, or something weird like that, a similar product. It's fucking weird.
So it's not uncommon?
No, it happens, like, every so often.
My.
But 9 times out of 10, it just goes back on the shelf. But anyway,
yeah.
Since going back on the shelf, the individual units of chocolate are still in the break room, right? And there's nothing wrong with them. They went back on the shelf. The other boxes didn't. They're sitting there for weeks, and I was like, fucking enough is enough. I'm ripping one of these open and eating some of these motherfuckers. So I eat some of it, and this other girl that I work with eats some. This other girl, we pal around, like, when shit is ripped open or something, like, we nibble on it a little bit and then we throw it out. But
this is potentially bad.
Yeah,
stuff.
This is bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You should not be doing this.
Okay.
But I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do it anyway. And then what happened was there were 2 different types, right? There was the one with almonds, one without almonds. And then the one without almonds hadn't been opened up yet. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this. Because otherwise it gets thrown away. It either gets thrown away, it's perfectly fine. Right?
Right. Quote
Or
unquote perfectly
it
fine.
is perfectly fine.
Yeah, sure it is.
It is perfectly fine.
How do you know it's perfectly fine?
Because it went back out on the shelf. It went back.
Wait, so they pull it, they put it back on the shelf, and then they pull it again.
No, this is what I'm saying.
Yes.
When this notification gone through the first time,
yes,
they take 1 unit from the box.
Yes.
Or 2 if it's 2 different flavors.
Yes.
And they put them in the break room.
Correct.
With a sticker so that people know this has been pulled.
Yes.
The boxes on the shelf
Yes.
then get put into another place.
Correct.
What happened was it turned out, oh, guys, nothing's wrong with this. So they put the boxes back on the shelf. But the 2 units, as an example, were still in the break room.
Oh, it was just the 2 units.
Yes.
That was, okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I just straight up took it, and I thought to myself, should I or should I not? I was like, no, I'm going to do it because it's just going to get thrown away. And I got home, and I ate like half of it, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I can redeem myself by throwing away the other half. And I shouldn't have done it. I said, fuck it. This is some good chocolate. So I ate it anyway. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I would be a better person in my eyes if I had the discipline to not have done that or to not do that in the future. Because discipline, self-discipline is probably the most difficult but most righteous thing someone can do
Yes.
for themselves.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving in to just whatever it is that you want without any authority. You are saying no, even though you want this thing or don't want to do this thing, you're telling yourself no. And because you are establishing a boundary, a self-imposed boundary, it makes you a little bit stronger.
Yes. And I feel like that is the highest value that one can possibly get to, and it makes me so sad because I am nowhere near that value at all. I mean, really,
It's okay.
It is a hard
Everything
thing
in due
to
time.
have self-discipline. I feel like you are near that summit of enlightenment when it comes to self-discipline. How do you feel about your ability to self-regulate?
Well, it depends on what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I was able. Some days I just don't want to go to the gym. I make it an excuse because I don't want to go. Today I went because my body was like, go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym. So I had to go. I don't know. It just depends.
But once you make up your mind and decide to do something and set your mind to it, it's done. Right?
See, the problem is the millisecond it takes to stop and think. You just need to know, like, I'm getting out of bed at this time. And when you wake up, you get out of bed. I'm not taking this chocolate. I'm not doing it. But when you stop and think, then it's pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
But I feel like in the moment, you're the kind of person who can make those in the moment decisions of like self-restraint. Like, I am not going to have this chocolate. Like, if you just decide I'm not going to have it.
No, I can.
Really?
Well, actually, today I thought about drinking a root beer that was in the fridge because when like the cans of soda fucking fall out of the thing or something, they just throw it in the refrigerator for anyone to have. I thought about drinking a soda. I said no because I've been on a good health binge lately. I've been eating a lot of salads. I've been doing some running. I've been drinking a lot of water. And I'm looking at this root beer, and I want some, but I'm not going to drink it. Mm-hmm. And other times, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to drink one. So,
yeah. But you are able to instill those moments of
yes, I
restraint.
am able to have moments of restraint. It's not like I just consume.
And I mean, I think primarily to that period when you ended up just not having any alcohol for 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like that was just something you decided at some point in time that you were going to do. You set your mind to it.
Yeah.
And then once the date hit, it was like your decision was made up. Like it was not an option for you anymore, right?
Correct.
That is the ultimate value, I feel like, of self-restraint.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you think about everyone who makes New Year's resolutions or, a Lent, promises for Lent or whatever. No one ever follows through to the very end. And even pastors always make jokes in their sermons about, like, like 3 of us are left in the room who have Lent commitments. Like, it's just like, wow, what a sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
And I am guilty of that as well. Like, I'm probably one of the most guilty people of not being able to
How awesome would it be if in school, instead of the same old shit that you learn all the time, not saying that it's not valuable, but how awesome would it be, like, to teach children at a young age, like, this is how you set goals. This is how you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're just like, what does that look? That means you don't care?
No. I mean, that was not a dismissive look. That was one of those looks of, like, that is my bread and butter of education reform is probably one of the, like, fundamental premises that I have for, like, what is wrong with this country.
Also,
like,
I think
where has this country failed?
I believe I want to say Japan. I don't know if it's like a nationwide thing or like there are some schools that do this and others that don't. Like, time is dedicated for the students, for small children, to clean the school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like, education in America, you can't get. I mean, you can obviously get worse, but, like, in some areas in the country, you can't get much worse than third world conditions. Like, there are some classrooms in this country that are using textbooks that are from the 1990s, like history and science textbooks from the 90s. And so these students are going to school in classrooms with leaking ceilings, with no air conditioning in the summer, and they live in the South, or no heating and they live in the North. Like, it is, and on top of that, for the longest time too, and this is like one of my, I'm not going to go on this rant, but it comes down to the fact that, like, for the longest time, we've been trying to teach facts and statistics to kids in an era where facts and statistics are accessible on demand, right? Our phones give us every single fact and statistic we could possibly want to know, right? Think of how many tests you could have aced if you could have your iPhone next to you, right?
Right.
Like, that's the real world. Your iPhone is the real world. It's what adults use to access whatever question they want to have answered. They use their smartphone. They use the internet to be able to answer that. And so the education system has been focused on teaching us what is provided in this little black box that every single one of us has. You know, if not this, a laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone has a PC, or everyone has a phone. Everyone has access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
If not personal, then there is public access.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to drill facts in, like, when did the Revolutionary War happen? When did, the Spanish conquistadors conquer the Aztecs or whatever? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, that's what Wikipedia is for.
Yeah.
But, like, we have been so insistent on spending so many years of our early education of trying to drill in these dates and drill in these names and drill in these locations. And, like, yeah, that's all well and good. But do you remember any of it? No. Do I? Absolutely not. But what I have found to be most valuable in education is not learning facts and statistics, but learning concepts, learning how to, like, sort out what facts mean, right? Like, the reason why fake news is a thing right now is because our education system hasn't taught people how to differentiate fake news from real news. And so now you have Donald Trump saying fake news, and you have 30% of the country believing him because our education system has failed to be able to teach people how to differentiate fake from real and realize Donald Trump's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Like, we've come to a point right now where you have a significant portion of the country that is willing to live in an alternative reality because the education system has not provided them with the tools to be able to, like, live in a shared world, in a shared universe, in a common reality. Instead, they have their own sort of, like, what they have are sort of people who, like, put the facts together for them, right? But they're selective facts, and they're not the full story, but they fit a particular narrative. And so they're able to convince people of one thing or another with very specific facts, and because our education system has said, you need to trust facts, they hear facts from these crazy fucking people, and they believe them. Because they've been told by our education system, facts are important. You must believe facts. And so you have these sort of conspiracy theorist type individuals who are like, here's a fact, there's a fact, here's a fact, here's a fact, ignoring 99.9% of the other facts and data. Like climate science, right? Like, there is an NBA player who thinks the Earth is flat. Kyrie Irving or something like that, who genuinely, honestly believes that the Earth is flat and says that his evidence is based off of that 0.0000, the one crazy scientist or whatever who says that the Earth can't possibly be round and everything is a fiction, right? Like, they hold equal weight for him.
Right.
So,
yeah, I remember you saying something like that.
So our education system, in theory, should have, instead of, like, telling us that facts are important, is to say the value of the fact is important, right? The proportion of the fact is important. When you're looking at 99.99 to 0.001, you cannot say that equals 50-50.
Right.
Like, we don't know how to do that. We look at 99.99 and 0.001, and we say those hold equal weight.
Right.
Because we don't know how to do any better, right? Like, we were never taught how to do it ourselves.
I don't recall, because I was going to say the greatest thing that I took away from going to school, and this also has to do with just the way that I operate, has been through English and history and writing, reading and writing has been my strength, as opposed to, like, chemistry and fucking math and
more of the
that,
social
you know what I'm saying?
sciences,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. More of the social sciences. And in doing, like, writing these papers, especially in college and everything, where I would try and write the most professional paper as I could, and I would put put the number 1 or 2 next to a sentence, and then have the bibliography at the very bottom, or have the note at the very bottom, and then the bibliography at the very end. So, like, I'm pulling I'm pulling information from like various books or resources, so to speak. And I know in Glen Ellen we have a very superior education system. But my question to you is, and because also there are people that are naturally inclined, like yourself, to differentiate between those things, and then I think there's people who have been taught how to do that, like myself. But my question to you is, do you think what you're explaining, does that exist predominantly in education systems that are super shitty, or do you also believe there are individuals who are a part of superior education systems that for whatever reason they just choose not to utilize the resource or how they've been taught, or if they're just a dumbass in a really good school system? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it has to do with, like, the education system in America is a massive mechanism, right? It is one of the biggest wheels of government that we have out there, national education system, right? Like, we all need to know certain things, and those are the education standards set forth by the federal government. Unfortunately, like, the federal government is not a fast-moving, cheetah. It's more like
it's the turtle on the like speed of the lawnmower. It's the turtle
who has been speared a couple of times in the gut, and so it lumbers along and it tries to adjust and make the changes. But like, when you have really good people and admirable people trying to do a really good job in a overall education system that is set up to make people fail, right? Like, resources are always drained from where they're needed the most. And so you have these really heroic figures who are in the inner city, who are in these failing school districts and trying to teach valuable life skills to individuals, but there's no incentive and no like hope for an incentive for them to continue like pouring all this time and energy when they're being recruited by private institutions, by suburban institutions. Like, they are, like, good teachers are valued commodities. And where do valued commodities go? Where they can get paid the most. Like, it's basic economics. And so if you have a good teacher in an inner city school district, they're either going to get burned out because they don't have the resources to maintain the energy that they need in that system, or they're going to get bought out somewhere else and end up leaving. And so you're left with subpar, academic folks. It's really, it's a self-fulfilling, like, devastation that we experience on a national basis. We are such an uneducated society. Like, what is it? 70% of Americans, something around 70% of Americans have not read a book in the past year.
I think the literacy rate is like 6th grade or 7th grade.
Yeah.
The national.
It's 6th or 7th. Yeah. Because Obama spoke at an 8th grade level. I think Trump speaks at a 4th grade level, 3rd or 4th grade level.
Wow.
And it really, but you see us sort of just declining on the global scale. All these other countries around the world are getting smarter. Like, all of them are becoming better critical thinkers, right? All these other countries, you see Russia interfering with the elections of all these other countries. You have those that have a better education system in that critical thinking aspect. Germans, for example, they have shut that door on the Russians, right? They're still getting hacked by the Russians just because of proximity, but like, they have done a far superior job to the United States in implementing anti-espionage efforts towards their election system. And a lot of that just has to do with, like, the base education of people, right?
Yeah, it is interesting to think.
Fucking morons.
It is crazy to think, though, too, how huge our country is compared to, like, Europe.
And that will always be the challenge, too, because we're in a country of 350 million people. And in a country that large, I mean, you're going to have the most diverse array of crazy to normal individuals that you could possibly imagine. Because, I mean, just look at people who live in, like, rural Alaska to down in, I don't know, like, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Or New York or
Alabama.
or Alabama or Cali or Cali.
Oh my gosh. Fucking hate
I know you love that I
Cali.
say Cali. We didn't even get to the gun debate. Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's we've far exceeded any
we
time range.
We need to end this because I need to wake up tomorrow morning. It's almost 11:30.
So you got to be up in a couple hours.
No, not in a couple hours. But I have to be somewhere.
You got to be up for a new day and a new stream.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we're gonna have to conclude this one.
All right.
Until next time.
Slides awkwardly away.